I'm Brittany, this is Hua Chung, and welcome to Gaywatch, where we watch and read gay things. I am so sorry, the co-host is neither Chuaning or Morun. I discovered, as I was, trying to grab a co-host for this stream, that they're both dirty. They're both filthy, which really just kind of speaks to the story. Very, very in character they are right now. So I had to grab Hua Chung, and I figured he was kind of the closest, in my opinion, to matching the vibe, as it were. So it would have been either that or Lan Zhen, but I couldn't immediately spot Lan Zhen. The first one my eyes landed on was Hua Chung. Not to get too in the weeds about co-hosts. Anyway, we are reading volume 6 of Erha. We read for a couple of hours. We take a break around halfway through to go back to the Gaywatch break room, which is where you just came from. There are trigger warnings in the description, along with the evergreen invitation to the public Gaywatch Discord, which is all about the books. And please no spoilers in the chat, because there are rereaders, yes, but there are also plenty of new readers here, and we would all like to experience this for the first time, including me. I've never read this before. I have no idea what's happening at any given moment, as was made extremely clear in the previous stream. There's a new mic, and I am currently still tweaking it to get the best sound, but I feel like I had it in a bit of a poor position last time. So if it sounds better, please let me know, because I have, oddly enough, very specific desires for how I want this to sound. And absolutely no capacity in being able to make that happen for myself for various reasons. People start talking about audio and my brain literally shuts off. I don't know what it is. So we're trying to get there. We are on page 187 for chapter 196. We should be reading through 199 today. And this chapter, what the hell did I just say? Chapter 196 is called Shizun, Shall We Take a Bath? Listen. We had gourd drama in the previous stream. And now we're just supposed to dive head first, yes, the pun was intentional, into a bath? She has no respect for my capacity at any given moment. She's like, no, I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do, and you're just going to be on board with it. And I'm like, yes, ma'am. May I have another? But that probably says enough about me. Let us read, shall we? So, and so it seemed they couldn't depend on Guyue. As the meeting adjourned, Shui Jingyang asked the Tenlong elder to come with him to the greenhouse to discuss tracking spells with Madame Wang. Every type of spiritual technique had its specialists. This one was outside the realm of Chuaning's expertise, so he wasn't much help. Thus, for a while, he would be less busy. Oh no, that's terrible. Some days later, as Chuaning was watching the fish from the pontoon bridge, there came a knock on the gate of the Red Lotus Pavilion. Come in, he called. Nangong Xi stepped over the threshold, his face bright beneath the rising moon. Zongsha wanted to see me. I heard you and Yoong Xi intend to leave Xisheng Peak the day after tomorrow, said Chuaning. Where do you plan to go? Nangong Xi lowered his lashes. Mount Jiao. Mount Jiao was one of Rufeng Sect's strongholds outside Linyi and a place of sacred importance. Legend had it that, centuries ago, Rufeng Sect's founder had formed a pact with a legendary Jiao dragon. When this Jiao died, its bones became the mountain, and the heroes of Rufeng Sect were henceforth laid to rest on its slopes. Any outsider who trespassed upon this peak that guarded generations of valiant Rufeng souls would be instantly slaughtered, their corpse mutilated beyond recognition. It was among the duties of the Rufeng sect leader to offer sacrifices to the mountain at the Qingming festival and the winter solstice each year. Qingming festival comes with a footnote. Qingming, the Pure Brightness Festival, or Tomb Sweeping Day, is a celebration to honor the dead in early April. Thank you so much. In effect, Mount Jiao was Rufeng sect's great ancestral hall. My dad, Nangong's eyes seemed to darken. My dad told me previous generations of sect leaders left relics in the shrine on Mount Jiao, in the event their descendants should someday require them. I think that day has come. Nangong was unguarded with Chuaning. He revealed the location of those treasures without a second thought. Although he wasn't as close with Chuaning as Shui Meng and the rest, their connection was undeniable. It was only because fate had other plans that Nangong never became Chuaning's disciple in truth. Over these past weeks, Nangong had wondered if his mother's life hadn't been ruthlessly cut short for a weapon from Jincheng Lake, would he now be calling Chuaning Shizun? Absolutely fuck you! I hadn't even considered that. I'd never considered that before. And now we just have, like, a lost fourth disciple running around? The disciple that could have been? I'm supposed to be okay with this? No. It's a long journey to Mount Jiao, Chuaning said. And I've heard travelers must show their respect to the mountain by fasting for 10 days before crossing its borders, or the Jiao's spirit will expel them. If you intend to go, you should complete the fast at Xisheng Peak before setting out. Nangong shook his head. Too many people from the upper cultivation realm have it out for me in Yoong Xi. If they had their way, we'd be dead already. They're sure to find us if we stay here too long, and that'll be a headache for Shui Zhongmen. It's time for us to be on our way. Don't be stupid. Nangong blinked. Fasting for 10 days is a dangerous venture. What if your enemies catch you on the road? Chuaning asked. Besides, Shui Zhongmen is too kind to let you leave now. Take my advice. Don't go yet. After days of exhaustion, Nangong was worn thin. His heart throbbed painfully at these words, and tears filled his eyes. He quickly looked at his feet. I will not forget Zongshe's benevolence. It's not benevolence. You're just staying a few more days, Chuaning replied. Anyway, I called you up here to tell you something else. Please go on, Zongshe. Xu Shuanglin mentioned your spiritual core is difficult to control and prone to qi deviation. You should ask Madame Wang to take a look. Yeah, I don't like that precedent. I don't like that. No. We can't. Literally, on the page previous, we established, you're like, oh my god, he's the duckling that never got to follow behind Chuaning. Aren't we all just so sad? And, like, now we're also being reminded that he's prone to qi deviation. Don't do that to me. I see you, meat bun, all right? You ain't slick. I mean, you are, but yeah. Nangong was taken aback. He smiled wryly. This affliction has plagued the Nangong family for generations. My dad once asked Hanlin the Sage from Guyuea to examine me. Even he deemed it impossible to suppress and said I can only let it run its course. If the best doctor in the world couldn't cure me, how could Madame Wang? It may not be that Hanlin Sage couldn't cure you. Maybe he didn't want to, said Chuaning. There are always grudges between sects. It's not out of the question that he might have some reservations. But Madame Wang has devoted extensive study to restraining an unmanageable spiritual core. She might be able to help. Nangong was perplexed. Why would she study that? A happy coincidence. Don't ask too many questions. Go on now. After thanking Chuaning profusely, Nangong took his leave from the Red Lotus Pavilion. Chuaning watched him go, sighing. He remembered Nangong as such a spirited youth, haughty and bold When he smiled, his eyes were bright as the dawning sun. Chuaning didn't know when he'd see such a smile again. As he turned back inside, Chuaning heard another knock from the gate. Thinking Nangong had backtracked, he again said, "Come in." The door opened, but the young man outside was not Nangong. Mo Run held a wooden bucket in his arms and wore a tentative expression. He cleared his throat before speaking, as if wary of seeming over-eager. "Shizun?" Chuaning was caught off guard. "What is it?" "Not much. I just came to ask if you wanted to bathe together." Moran. "Sweetie, baby, sugar, honey, light of my life. You can't just unload the prospect of you and Chuaning being naked in hot water together to Chuaning. This isn't even about me. This is about Chuaning. You can't make that offer. You're standing there on the other side of the door holding a bucket. You can't just say things like that. Similarly, Chuaning wouldn't be able to do the same thing to you for albeit slightly different reasons, but still, at this point, one of you is going to inadvertently kill the other one just with your ideas. Your little casual ideas of, hey, what if we did this? Someone's gonna keel over at some point. Octagonal Golbat reading all our minds, saying, "Oh, he'll unload all right." It's a perfect comment. I don't need to say anything else. Something seemed to be stuck in Chuaning's throat. He would know something about that, wouldn't he? He coughed softly. "Where?" Moran hesitated. "Melodic Springs." Chuaning didn't know what to say. Melodic Springs was a winding maze of pools, the mist so thick one could scarcely see their hand in front of their face. In a suitably covert spot, no one would notice a thing. Now, why have we gone there? Chuaning, Mr. Aesthetic, Mr. Pure as the driven snow, becoming decidedly less pure as this series goes on. Why is that like the first characteristic we focus on? Curiouser and curiouser. Hello, where am I? Once again. But Chuaning hadn't imagined Mo Run would invite him to bathe in Melodic Springs together. He began to panic slightly. Could Mo Run be this brazen? Oh, honey. That brazen man continued. Shui Meng just returned from his bath and said it was pretty empty. His face reddened. This seemed too direct, so he tried a different approach. It's chilly out. I was worried Shizun might catch a cold if you bathe here at the pavilion. Of course Chuaning wouldn't catch any cold. He could set up a warming barrier with no more than a thought. Mo Run knew this as well as anyone, yet here he was, inviting Chuaning to Melodic Springs. His intentions were beyond transparent. He even dared say he was worried about Chuaning in the cold. The man had no shame. You know, without going into much detail, I will say that I have been Mo Run in this situation. In front of people, no less. It wasn't just me and the wife back when we were kind of started dating. Anyway, Mo-run ever so shamelessly fixed his eyes, dark as pitch, on Chuaning. Shizun, shall we? Chuaning said nothing. If he nodded, it was as good as telling Mo-run that he understood his impure intentions, yet was still swallowing his sorry excuse. Swallowing. He suddenly recalled their frenzied night at the inn. Mo-run had gone down without hesitation, drowning him in an entirely new kind of pleasure. The eyes Mo-run had turned on him then had been gentle yet fiery, misted by desire. Chuaning's heart had melted beneath that gaze. Come with me, pretty please? What are you, 5? The troublemaker flashed a good-natured grin. Uh-huh. It's almost nighttime, and I'm so scared of ghosts, he said softly. I can't walk in the dark unless Waningaga goes with me. This man was truly a lost cause, but Chuaning still went with him in the end. Are we surprised? Absolutely not. Most of Xisheng Peak's disciples bathed after their evening cultivation training. At this hour, only a handful remained in Melodic Springs. Mo-run lifted the gauze curtain, his bare, slender feet stepping onto the agate pathway. Wreathed in steam, he turned to grin at Chuaning. He pointed out a direction, then walked away. Inwardly, Chuaning snorted. Pretty eager for someone scared of ghosts, aren't you? This, he said to himself. Why was I thinking... Why, when it was like, hey, Shizun, you want to take a bath? And, like, that's the name of this chapter and everything. Why did I immediately go to, like, a personal bath? Why didn't I think of actual, like, large public, like, areas? Why did I go immediately to... I mean, I am not arguing. This is simply an observation. Lotus Pool and Plum Pool were the two largest areas of Melodic Springs. Medicinal plants grew along their banks, and the waters teemed with spiritual energy. Most disciples preferred these two pools. Though there were smaller, unnamed ponds as well, those remote corners had no special properties, so most wouldn't bathe there unless it was very crowded indeed. The Yuheng elder trod the narrow path alone, a vision of ascetic purity. From the corner of his eye, he spotted shadows in the larger pools, but it was impossible to make out faces through the steam. Clearer were the snatches of conversation that reached him as those disciples chatted idly. As he neared Plum Pool, the mist thickened until he could barely see his own fingers. A large hand suddenly grabbed him from behind, and Mo-run's warm, firm chest pressed up against Chuaning's back. Right down to it, are we? Now, what kind of... Should we take bets, actually? We should take bets. What kind of sexual activity do you think they're going to get up to? Is this going to be, like, averted? Are they going to be interrupted and all they were able to do is, like, make out for a little bit? Is somebody going to go down on somebody? Is somebody going to bend over for more thigh interaction? What is happening? What's going on? What are we thinking? This is obviously a hand job. Thank you. Selfie. Is it just going to be a hand thing? What are we thinking? Oh, mutual. Liv, I like the way you think. Mutual hand job. I like that, actually. That would be nice. That would be nice. Always, Henry, always down for frauding. Thank you for that suggestion. Absolutely. Yes, I can be whatever I want to be. Definitely not full penetration. No, I don't think that's going to happen in a semi-public space. A lot can happen in this semi-public space, but I don't think that's not what it feels like. I would be surprised. I trust in Meat Bun that she knows When and exactly how that needs to happen. So if it somehow becomes this moment, there's going to be a reason. But I don't think that's going to be it. Definitely. I don't know. This is why I'm asking you. I have no idea. Like, especially since we've already gone like intercrural, which is already kind of off my own personal like reservation a little bit, that she could also just do something else that I wouldn't naturally think of, which is why I opened it up to a betting pool. Let's see. Hello, that's not the right page I'm on at all. They were so close, with only the flimsiest layer of clothes between them. He could distinctly feel Morun's burgeoning erection. I mean, that much was obvious. We didn't need a betting pool for that. Chuaning jumped. What are you doing? Stop messing around. Morun chuckled, mouth to Chuaning's ear. Waningaga, don't go over there. There are ghosts up ahead. Chuaning hesitated, torn between blurting ghost my ass and guh my ass. What came out in a low voice was, let go. Morun did no such thing. He laughed softly. It's so hard to let go. I can't. What is wrong with you? There really is something wrong with me, Morun murmured. If you don't believe me, take a look. Chuaning's ears were turning red, but he snapped caustically. I won't. Morun's reply was another chuckle. When he spoke again, his voice had roughened. All right. Whatever you say. His words were dutiful, but his actions were quite the opposite. His fingers trailed over Chuaning's throat before tracing its line upward and closing around his jaw. Stop messing around. Chuaning could hardly see in the mist, and his other senses seemed to sharpen in compensation. He felt Morun bury his face in the crook of his neck. Chuaning trembled as his hot breath skimmed over his skin. Full disclosure, I can, whenever art is coming up, if it's like mostly like a solid color and stuff, I can typically see through the page when art is coming up. When it genuinely clocks me, it genuinely clocks me. But sometimes I get a little bit of a heads up. There's art on the next page that I have not seen. And I think we all need about a little over half a page of warning before that becomes a thing. Waningaga shaking. Are you scared of ghosts too? Don't call me that. Morun chortled and looped an arm around his waist from behind. Kissing down the side of Chuaning's neck, he said deferentially, Okay, I'll be good. Then, Shizun, would you please permit this disciple to help you undress and bathe? Somehow, this was even worse. Chuaning was at the limit of his tolerance, and the steam was scalding him inside and out. He blurted, eyes red with humiliation, I'm not taking a bath. I'm leaving. Morun knew he was thin-skinned, but he still found Chuaning's attempt to turn tail and flee adorably hilarious. But Shizun, can you make it out of here in your current state? What if someone sees? Current state has become, is just a lesser-known euphemism in the greater world. I'm getting knocked off from where I'm reading so majorly today. I mean, they're only in a bath. What's to be excited about, you know? Who cares? Chuaning shot back with a scowl. I'd rather be bitten by a dog than mess around with you. Bitten by a dog. You heard me. Morun laughed. His gaze was dark with desire, with an edge not usually present. Baring his teeth, he bent and ghosted his lips across the back of Chuaning's ear. Chuaning thought he was going to say something outrageous again. He was about to lose his temper when he heard Mo-run rumble softly and dangerously into his ear. Listen, I'm not going to recreate it because I do have a little bit. I just got to peek at the art. I'm so sorry. I do have a little bit of shame. But let's just say he growled the sound a dog makes. All right? Let's just leave it at that. I'm... I beg your pardon, which is the funniest response he could have possibly had. Hey, I thought that was pretty good. Mo-run sounded genuinely disappointed. I used to have a little puppy with blue eyes and a flame-shaped mark on his forehead. He barked just like that. Don't be absurd, replied Chuaning, exasperated. Why are you barking? What do you think? Mo-run chuckled. He kissed Chuaning's ear, then licked up the side of his neck. I've barked and everything. Shizun, you said it yourself. You'd rather be bitten by a dog. Chuaning went rigid. All the blood in his body seemed to boil in a certain direction. The end of that sentence was me. That was not actually written. Of course, Mo-run had to add, Can I bite you now, Shizun? Oh, we didn't even talk about biting. I mean, dare to dream. We didn't even talk about biting. Without waiting for a reply, he pulled Chuaning into a deep kiss. They tangled together, losing themselves and each other. Mo-run had wanted to take his time, but it was a hopeless endeavor. Chuaning was a poison that corrupted his mind and fanned the flames of his desire. Far from slow, he found himself careening forward, his willpower evaporating with each labored breath. By the time they broke apart, Chuaning's phoenix eyes were glassy. Yet he hadn't forgotten his mission. I came here to take a bath, so let's bathe first. Mo-run made a soft noise of agreement, between a and a humph. Chuaning braced himself against the drag of that low-pitched hum, even as a jolt of electricity raced down his spine and flames kindled in his eyes. He led Chuaning down the steps into the warm pool by the wrist. The rushing waterfall covered the sound of their quickened breathing. Speaking of quickened breathing, they're finally giving me what I've kind of been asking for. There have been plenty of scenes in a Seven Seas danmei where I'm like, this could have come with art. You know what I mean? Like, we're already here for several reasons, but we're here for some certain reasons as well. Certain moments being rendered visually on the page would not be remiss. I'm simply saying. Chuaning was still uneasy. Just as Mo-run was about to draw him into another kiss, Chuaning raised a hand to forestall him. There's no one here, he asked quietly. No, I've checked everywhere. Mo-run's voice was low and heated, more fervid than the water lapping at his legs. Shizun, feel this. I think there's really something wrong with me. Why is it so hot and so hard? It's the loving, horny, gentle teasing of the previously pure character. That's truly... It's just satisfying. I don't know how that isn't one of your favorite things. Chuaning's cheeks flamed red with shame, but he couldn't pry his hand from Mo Run's grip. His palm pressed against something so fearsome. Fearsome! Woo! His ears seemed to ring, and his entire body prickled with pins and needles. He wanted to pull away, but Mo Run's hold was unrelenting. Chuaning's hand began to ache. He felt as if Mo Run wanted to crush his fingers into his palm. Mo Run's breath came so quickly, so ardently, almost adorably impatient. Amidst the swirling steam, only those dark eyes and his handsome face were close enough for Chuaning to see, misty, yet burning with desire. Chuaning watched him swallow, throat bobbing. He gazed into Chuaning's face and beseeched softly. Shizin, help me. Okay. Cool. All right. Okay. All right. We should be. Thank you so much, Rumi, for the reminder. Why have we not been holding hands this entire chapter? Get the fuck in here. Take my hand, please. Everybody hold hands. Holy shit. Nobody move. I'm so sorry if I've been stopping after like every fucking 2 words, but it's not my fault, okay? Blame her. This is all her fault. Then he captured Chuaning's lips once more. The inferno of his lust was doused with oil. Even water couldn't drown the flames. Waves of heat crested and crashed. A vast forest burnt to ash. They kissed, their lips crushed together, tongues slipping past for a taste of one another. It was torturously, fruitlessly unsatisfying, leaving them aching for more. Mo Run led Chuaning into the depths of the spring, where the water was just below their waists. He pressed Chuaning's back to a slippery stone wall, showering him with fevered kisses as he tore open the last flimsy layer of his bathrobe. They had rushed into the water too quickly to undress. Oh no, that's terrible. Now we just have to deal with flimsy wet fabric. Why, this is shame. This is just shame. You hate to see it. Water splashed against the stone and cloaked them in a fine mist. The roar of the waterfall filled their ears, drowning out all else. Chuaning's robe was wide open as Mo Run kissed him against the wall. His lapels, pulled down to his elbows, pinned his arms in place. Don't. But the mortification and thrill of this restraint only increased Chuaning's sensitivity as he panted under Mo Run. Oh dear. Restraints have entered the chat. This wasn't on any of our bingo cards. As a rough tongue lapped over the pale blush on his chest, Chuaning furrowed his brow. He was disoriented by want. Bewilderment blurred the lines of his solemn features. As desire and reason clashed within him, the sparks flying in his gaze were enough to drive Mo Run mad. Not so hard, Chuaning rasped. He threw his head back. Phoenix's eyes narrowed as he heaved for breath. Mist billowed around them, shrouding the world from sight. Mo Run spun Chuaning around so he faced the wall. He felt Mo Run's leg braced solidly against his beneath the water. Compared to the cool stone against his cheek, the heat of this contact was startling. His eyes were half-lidded. Never had he imagined fooling around like this with his own disciple, engaging in such acts in the pools of melodic springs, where anyone could come across them at any moment. We're just gonna pour one out for the for the semi-public bitches. It's me. I'm bitches. Shame, confusion, lust, and exhilaration fogged his gaze. He felt something huge and blazing hot pressed between his legs, rubbing against the cleft of his ass. Caught off guard, he let out a soft cry of surprise. Behind him, Mo-Run stilled. Then, as though inflamed by that bitten-off gasp, Mo-Run's hand closed around Chuaning's waist as he thrust forward harshly below the water. Although he was only caught between Chuaning's legs and not actually inside him, Mo-Run was unbelievably turned on. The man beneath him was Chuaning. This alone was the most potent aphrodisiac in the world. The water's surface betrayed but a few ripples, yet in the depths of the hot spring, his thick length rubbed hotly between Chuaning's thighs, brushing past that hidden entrance. You don't often see sex acts, what's the word repeated. For generally speaking, more like story and authorial reasons. Because obviously people repeat sexual acts like all the time, like duh. But from a narrative standpoint, it usually stays like super varied. I'm not angry at it. Ask me if I'm upset. I'm absolutely not. I'm just observing. I was not expecting. So muddled was his awareness that he almost wanted to heedlessly lift Chuaning's leg and press into him, to bury himself as deeply as he had so many times in the past life. He almost wanted to take Chuaning into his arms and claim him completely, to hook Chuaning's legs around his waist and fuck him to tears, to release. Waning. Mo-Run's voice was low, scattered with glowing embers, his eyes dark. The soft splash of water sounded so much like the rhythm of their joining from another lifetime. Wrapped in the warmth of the spring and the silky skin between Chuaning's legs, Mo-Run saw his rationality slipping away. Before he could cross the line, he drew in a breath and pulled Chuaning around to face him. He pressed that chest to his own as the spray clouded their vision, scalding droplets falling over their enraptured faces. Mo-Run kissed him frantically, trailing his way down to his chin, only to fiercely take his lips again, consumed by yearning. His other hand felt its way down, closing around Chuaning's painfully hard arousal and pressing it to his own. Chuaning had never dreamt such a thing was possible. His lashes fluttered shut with pleasures as Mo-Run stroked them together. Who said mutual? Who said mutual? They went. Henry, that was not you. Was it Henry and Liv? Or Liv? Liv keeps winning as well. Holy shit. Y'all, I'm telling you. Why does Apollo's dodgeball keep beating the shit out of y'all? Jesus. Mo-Run, he whined, letting his head fall back. He only had time to utter that name once before Mo-Run stoppered every other sound with a kiss. He lined up Chuaning's cock with his own, his hand moving feverishly as he wrapped his other arm around his shizun. He could feel Chuaning shivering in his embrace, rousing his tender adoration, his manic obsession. Their lips were slick when they came up for air. Swept up in this outpouring of primal desire, Chuaning opened his eyes and unconsciously looked down at where the two of them were pressed together in Mo-Run's hand. His scalp went numb with that glance. For the first time, oh Jesus, for the first time he got a clear look at Mo-Run's cock. I mean, are we sure? I feel like it would take a few seconds in order to look at the whole thing from what we understand about this weapon. of mass destruction. It was a weapon. Thank you. Thank you. You love to get hit in the face with Apollo's ball of prophecy. Thank you so much. Liv and Henry kind of been hogging it a little bit. I like to get clocked too every now and then. Thank you. Thank you. It was a weapon of flesh and blood, thick and hard with an alarming heft, veins bulging in its current state of arousal. It rubbed against Chuaning's abdomen, its gleaming tip gliding over skin. Chuaning squeezed his eyes shut. A tremor ran through him, his mind crumbling. How was it so big? How would it possibly fit? He was sure he couldn't fit it in his mouth without gagging. How? The corners of his eyes burned with mortification. If that thing went inside him, wouldn't he die? You know, at this point, I wouldn't... Valid concern. Did anyone ever see the second Magic Mike movie? There was a whole plot line about that one guy who was, like, too well endowed, and he hadn't had sex in, like, forever because it's just simply too large. And he's got, like, a whole thing about where he finally meets a girl who can, like, take him and stuff. And there's, like, a whole... I'm reminded of that. Like, it does become an issue at some point, you know? Those dreams must have been figments of his imagination after all. Chuaning's cheeks were flushed crimson. How could he possibly kneel on the bed and be invaded like that? How could he possibly take in something like that while panting and moaning so wantonly, begging to be fucked harder and faster, like an animal in heat? How could that possibly feel good? How could he possibly come from that? How? The more he thought on it, the more preposterous it seemed. Shame, indignation, and self-loathing threatened to drown him. Fortunately, Mo-Run gave him no time to ruminate. His broad hand was wrapped around both their shafts, deftly stroking them off. The tendons in their necks strained as heat built between them. Soft cries slipped from between Chuaning's lips. You can't see through the fog here, but you can still hear noises, Mo-Run cautioned, reaching up to cover Chuaning's mouth and nose. The sweltering mist eddied around them. He felt like he was suffocating under Mo-Run's tight grip. Which one? With his arms pinned by his robe and his voice stifled, that feeling of being held against his will was both agony and thrill. He couldn't stop the tears that leaked from his eyes. He was like a sacred crane drawing his final breaths, delicate neck arched to reveal his vulnerable throat, shaking his head repeatedly. I can't. But Mo-Run didn't stop. He bent his head to nip at the jut of that throat. Slowly he raised his eyes, taking in Chuaning's harrowed expression, his furrowed brow, his helpless despair. Shizun, he murmured. He couldn't hold back a moment longer. He released Chuaning's mouth and pulled him into a bruising kiss. Water surged around them, and the falls thundered down from above. Chuaning could scarcely breathe through Mo-Run's kiss. His lips were swollen, his gaze unfocused as he gasped for air. Mo-Run held him close, burying his face in his neck. In the hidden depths of the spring, their ardent breaths mingled. They were near to drowning, drenched in sweat and torrid water. They tangled like mating beasts, as though no closeness was too much. They wished to meld together, flesh into flesh, bone into bone. Enough. Really, that's enough. Chuaning struggled to free himself, shuddering against that prickling onslaught of pleasure. Stop, I'm done. At Chuaning's low mumbling, Mo-Run's eyes only darkened. He kissed him on the cheek. Just a little longer, babe. He panted. Wait for me. Is now the time when we get to chat about dirty talk? Because maybe it's just the chatty bitch in me, but there's like the chattier the better almost. Like, I like my scenes. I like my sex scenes like I like my regular scenes. Conversation, babes. Words. Thank you. His hand moved faster, his hips instinctively bucking forward. Eventually, there was nothing left in their minds save for the man before each of them, save for love and desire. Whether it was the physical ecstasy or the rush of adrenaline from sneaking around in melodic springs, their climax was overpowering. As Chuaning came, he couldn't help the hoarse moan that escaped him, completely forgetting to keep his voice down. The two of them gasped as one, rough yet adoring, filthy yet pure, their eyes filled only with one another's faces as they came. They kissed again, lingering and tender, the afterglow spreading through them like ripples on the water. "You came so much," Mo-Run murmured indistinctly. His hand was covered in it. He reached over with a distant look in his eyes, smearing his fingers over Chuaning's stomach, along his toned abs, all the way up to his chest. Chuaning shivered in his arms, shaking uncontrollably with pleasure and overstimulation. Mo-Run gathered him close, whispering into his ear. "That felt good, didn't it?" Chuaning couldn't speak. "Next time, if you're ready," pressing his damp torso to Chuaning's, Mo-Run kissed him. "We'll do it for real, okay?" Third time is the charm. It's the rule of 3 for a reason. That makes total sense. I already see where she's going. If you don't know what the rule of 3 is, it's a big rule, not even just in fiction and storytelling, but also like in comedy. There's a rule of 3. Where just the third time is different if you're setting up something. First time is the same, second time establishes the pattern, and then the third time changes something. And it sounds really broad and vague because it is supposed to be broad and vague. It is a very broad principle that is applied in 1.5 million different ways. So now we've had 2 scenes of the intercrural. So the third one should be, because it doesn't always abide, sometimes the rule is inverted, should be then the difference being when they actually have sex. The next time they have a moment for something this intense. So that this tracks to me. Yeah, I understand even more now why intercrural was repeated. Hello, that's not the right page. In some sense, Chuaning had long known this was coming, but upon hearing these words spoken aloud, added to the fact that he had just seen that monstrosity with his own eyes, Chuaning's spine tingled, and all his muscles tensed. Mo-Run could feel Chuaning flinch in his embrace. He kissed him ever so gently. "I won't hurt you. I'll make sure it's good for you." I really am stopping after every single freaking sentence. I'm so sorry, but like... he's committed to making it good for... All right. They entwined in the depths of the waterfall, lingering pleasure coursing through them. Mo-Run's voice was husky with adoration and desire. "I'll make sure you like it, really. It might hurt just a little when I first go in, but I'll go as slow as you want." Shame blazed through Chuaning. He wanted to throw Mo-Run off and leave in a huff, but his legs were unsteady. "Stop talking." Perhaps Mo-Run knew Chuaning wasn't actually opposed to the idea. He forged ahead with uncharacteristic willfulness. He pressed wet lips to Chuaning's earlobe, his voice mesmerizing. "I'll make sure everything will go right. Shizin, if you're scared, I'll get some medicine. Trust me, once you get used to it, it'll feel amazing. In his head, as in italics, as in not saying it out loud. In the past life, I saw you get fucked senseless, but back then it was all hatred and punishment. In this life, I want you to hold me, to become one with me, to never part from me. I want you to want it, to enjoy it, to never forget me. He kissed Chuaning, his eyes glowing as though embers smoldered within. His next words were devious yet tender, lascivious yet earnest, doting yet ferocious. The first half of the sentence was respectful, but the second was entirely out of line. My dear Shizun, next time, could I make you come on my cock? That's the end of the chapter. Isu, please tell me what Janae said when she read this. I should really shoot her a message about this. What the hell did she say? Not can I make you climax on my absolute unit. Oh my god. No. Did she just like improvise that, or did she see it and then like rephrase? Because if so, she just improvised that. See? This is why everybody, if you don't know who we're talking about, Janae Henning, you should go follow her for reasons that have become extremely apparent. Holy God, that's the end of the chapter. It's 4 exactly. Okay, listen, I'm gonna try to go a bit faster when we get back, okay? Because we can't freaking be here forever. So it's 4. We're gonna go ahead and take our break on that note. I'll be back here in just a few minutes. Please enjoy the Gaywatch break room. Actually, the program that I use for the Gaywatch break room, the Spirit City, is due for a big update in just like a couple of weeks. That'll have like some new stuff and actually like a new location. You know how there's that living room and then there's the kitchen? There's going to be a new location and you will not be expecting it, actually. I'm deeply, deeply excited. So that's coming up. There's going to be some changes to the break room as new stuff comes in. I'm going to go make tea or something, man. I've had juice. We need tea. We need tea for this. I'm going to go get tea. I'll be right back. Please enjoy yourselves. Walk around the house. Cool down. Go find some ice. And I'll be back here in a second. Welcome back. So, Rumi said up there, mentioned how the Captive Prince and Erha book chats have been made public. I will be honest, that was a mistake. That was a mistake. I had not realized that when you add something to a playlist, that just makes it public, kind of no matter what you have the video set as. That was a mistake. However, it has led me to kind of reevaluate a little bit. Like, I think there might be a reality in which joining the live streams is for patrons and YouTube members. And then maybe after a certain amount of time goes by, then those videos are made public. It kind of feels like there might be a little bit of wiggle room there where at first I was like, it'll be more of a clear-cut thing. But yes, that was a happy accident, as it were, because now I'm kind of reconsidering how I can go about that. Because it's always it's a weird balance to try to strike between wanting to give YouTube members and patrons the value that they deserve, but then also not wanting to like keep everything behind a paywall, you know? So I have to reevaluate and figure that out every single freaking day. So I am reassessing for the book chats and stuff to try to get the best of both worlds. So thank you for voicing your appreciation. It was initially an accident, however. So, have we all calmed down? Did we grab some ice? One of y'all mentioned, you know, what if the ice is part of the kink, though? And that would be unfortunate for you. Or fortunate for you, depending on how you look at it. We are on page 203 for chapter 197, which is called Shizun is Not a Fox Spirit. We're back to the cryptic titles after the very on-the-nose title of the previous chapter. How could Chuaning tolerate such an unspeakably mortifying question? The moment they left Melodic Springs, he stalked off without a backward glance at Mo Run. A man needed face like a tree needed bark. How did Mo Run have the nerve to ask him such an appalling question? Did Mo Run imagine he would nod in agreement? What was the point of asking him something like that? It would be far better to just go ahead and do it. Not objecting to the actual idea, or not even saying, but just asking. Oh my God, you know what this gives? This gives, it is very virginal, but it totally gives like the people in their late teens and early 20s who are having sex but can't quite talk about it. It's like they'll do it, but like verbalizing that, especially just outside of the context, still makes them a little like giggling and immature. That's what this reminds me of. This is actually very true to life. The next day, the elder in charge of teaching classics fell ill, and Shui Jingyong asked Chuaning to supervise the students as they memorized their texts. Classics was one of the largest courses. Chuaning couldn't possibly keep an eye on all the disciples by himself. Thus, he brought Mo Run, Shui Meng, and Shimei to assist. Shimei and Mo Run soon became the busiest among the four. The reason was simple. Shimei was gentle and beautiful, and Mo Run was gallant and kind. The descriptors of Mo Run being gallant and kind. The younger disciples took a natural shine to them. Shimei, with his long legs, narrow waist, and face out of a painting, was especially popular. The softness of youth had long gone, and he had grown into a stunningly attractive man, with a mild temper and a voice that was music to the ears. He left a favorable impression on just about everyone, men and women alike. As for Mo Run, he had been entrapped in a crowd of female disciples. Mo Shishang, I don't understand this sentence. Can you take a look at it for me? Mo Shishang, what's the difference between these two spells? I don't get it. Shishang, could you explain it to me? Mo Shishang. By the time Mo Run explained to the ninth smiling little Shimei why the sigil of the returning billows must be drawn exactly as its inventor specified, Chuaning's patience was spent. Frowning, he shot Mo Run a cool glance over the rows of disciples dividing them. Mo Run had endured the cold shoulder from Chuaning since the evening before, and was feeling rather low. He'd been accustomed to taking by force in the past life. This time around, he moved with painstaking care. Every time they tried something new, he checked to see if Chuaning was enjoying himself. He didn't know where he'd gone wrong. Should he not have asked? Maybe he had called him the wrong thing. Instead of "my dear Shizun, next time could I make you come on my cock," should he have said, "baby girl, next time could I make you come on my cock"? Sir, that's the wrong direction. In terms of what would be less of an assault on all of Chuaning's senses, I think maybe we reassess. Thus, after being ignored for an entire day, he was quick to notice Chuaning's eyes on him. Though Chuaning was pinning him with a ferocious glare, Mo Run reacted like a wilting cabbage that had been watered. His eyes lit up, and he flashed Chuaning a brilliant smile. Chuaning was speechless. Clearly this idiot had no clue why this gaggle of girls had so many questions. Were they genuinely confused? In that case, the inventor of the sigil of the returning billows was standing right here. Why didn't they come over to ask Chuaning? Why would they take the circuitous route of asking Mo Shixiang instead? Chuaning was immensely displeased, but he said nothing, merely staring flintily at Mo Run. After feeling Chuaning's gaze on him for some seconds, Mo Run eventually realized something was amiss. At that moment, the 10th little Shimei eagerly tried to flag him down. "Moshiga!" "Sorry, gotta go." Mo Run grinned and pointed at Shui Meng. "Why don't you ask Shui Shishang?" The little Shimei, her hair in a neat bun, looked on crestfallen as Mo Run walked toward Chuaning. Chewing on the end of her brush, she heaved a gusty sigh. "Shizun, what's wrong? You don't look happy." Chuaning pressed his lips into a tight line. It wouldn't do to speak his mind now. "I'm a little tired. Let Shui Meng take care of those students and help me keep an eye on things over here." Mo Run didn't suspect a thing. Nodding, he diligently fell into step behind Chuaning as he made his rounds. Walking with his Shizun, Mo Run noticed something. Far fewer people were asking questions on this side. How odd, he thought. Were these disciples smarter than the others? Were both oblivious? For entirely different reasons? Having escaped those vexing cries of Mo Shishang and the doubly infuriating Mo Shiga, Chuaning's mood lightened considerably, though his face betrayed none of it. Just as before, he walked impassively among the junior disciples as they studied their texts. It was in this way that he overheard a particular conversation between two students. Shishang, I'm telling you, there's a fox spirit in Melodic Springs." "No! No, come on! No. Don't do this to him. No! Oh, no. Oh, Lord. I think maybe we should probably be in a private place next time, where certain people can make certain vocalizations and not make other people think that the baths are haunted." "Huh? What do you mean?" "Last night, I was taking a bath in Plum Pool. I was about to leave when I heard, some noises." The Shixiang's mouth fell open in astonishment. Maybe it was a couple of reckless disciples? Who would be that reckless? No way. Disciples would sneak around in private and call it a day. If the Yuhang Elder or Tanlong Elder caught anyone messing around in public in Melodic Springs, they'd break their legs. It couldn't be any of the disciples. Fair enough. I'm telling you, it must have been a fox spirit absorbing yang essence and to replenish her yin. I can't even speak. A bunch of us are going back tonight to see if we can catch the little vixen. We'd be doing everyone a favor if we succeed, right? We can't just let her go around seducing our sect mates. Yeah, I'm with you, Harry. Absorbing yang essence is the new hot euphemism going around town. It's what all the kids are saying these days. Not now, Mom. I'm absorbing yang essence. Yeah. Where? I don't know. Listen, I don't know where I'm reading at any given frickin' moment. Sure. Did you see who she was fooling around with yesterday, though? It's so hazy in Melodic Springs. I would have had to walk right up to them. You won't see me going over there. I'm just a kid. What if that fox spirit took a liking to me and made me dual cultivate with her? As the little disciple rambled on, a strange look came over his Shishyoung's face. He reached out and waved a hand. What's wrong? What's with you? His Shishyoung said nothing, but the little disciple felt a prickle on the back of his neck. He slowly turned to find the Yuheng elder standing right behind him with an inscrutable expression on his face, emanating an arctic chill. Hiya! The disciple yelped. Elder, begging your pardon. Class is for memorizing texts, not discussing evil spirits or essences, or even dual cultivation. Chuaning glowered. Quite the imagination you've got. Now get back to studying. If I hear another peep of such nonsense, there will be consequences. With a flick of his sleeves, he strode away. Mo-Run, too, happened to overhear this conversation. As much as he wanted to, he didn't dare laugh. His gaze lingered on Chuaning's retreating figure. How had such a proper person ever fallen in love with him? Why would he want to be with someone like Mo-Run? He felt a warm ache in his chest, his mood bittersweet. After class ended, he couldn't resist clinging to Chuaning as he tidied the texts in the reading room. He wrapped his arms around him, kissing him tenderly. Furious, Chuaning rapped Mo-Run on the head with a scroll. Brilliant idea, Melodic Springs. What have I become now? Mo-Run held back a laugh. Rubbing his nose against Chuaning's ear, he crooned as though he didn't already know the answer. What has Shizun become now? How could this man be so shameless? Chuaning's eyes flew wide in a rage. You! Mo-Run grinned, dimples deep and sweet, overflowing with honey. He kissed Chuaning again. Those Shidi were really full of it. A fox spirit? Absorbing... what was it? Absorbing yang essence to replenish yin? One more word, and I'll kill you. Chuaning brandished the scroll as if to stuff it down Mo-Run's throat. Mo-Run chuckled. Then can I at least choose how I'll die? I want the fox spirit in Melodic Springs to suck all the yang essence out of me. What a way to go. The former tyrant's a funny bitch. You gotta give him that. Oh, moe you. From that day forward, no amount of persuasion could convince Chuaning to visit Melodic Springs with Mo-Run ever again. That's a scene break. One morning, a few days later, Madame Wong requested Mo-Run come and see her. Taking his hand, she asked, Renner, during your travels, did you ever come across a strange girl in Snow Valley? What kind of girl? Strange in what way? Very pale, with a bloodless complexion. She favors red robes and always carries a basket in her arms as she chats with travelers passing through Snow Valley. Mo-Run smiles. Oh, Auntie, do you mean the Maiden of the Snow? Madame Wong blinked in astonishment. You know of the Maiden of the Snow? She exclaimed in delight. I didn't think you'd have heard of such a rare spirit, so I thought I'd describe her. Who would have thought? Shizun mentioned her in his journal, so I happened to read about her, said Mo-Run. Auntie, why do you ask? Nangong and Yoong Xi came to see me a few days ago. After examining his pulse, I do think his turbulent yang spiritual flow could be brought under control, but the ingredients for the treatment are hard to come by. The rarest is the icicle fish the Maiden of the Snow carries in her basket. Madame Wong sighed. Young Nangong and Yoong Xi and Meng are about the same age. It's terrible what he's been through. I want to help however I can. But the Maiden of the Snow is famously elusive. 20 years back, she was spotted in Snow Valley. Before that, the last recorded sighting was in Kunlun Toshui Palace's records a century ago. I thought I'd try my luck if you'd seen her. Mo-Run was torn between elation and sorrow. If Nangong's ailment could be cured, he could lead an ordinary life. Perhaps he and Yoong Xi could be together at last, given their feelings for one another. But despite spending a year in Snow Valley, he'd never come across the legendary Maiden of the Snow. He couldn't help Madame Wong. After we settle Shu Shuanglin's case, I'll make a trip to Snow Valley and scour it for any trace of her. Who knows? I might find some leads. Cheered by the prospect, Mo Run took his leave to share the news with Nangong Se. Madame Wong called after him. Renner, don't walk so fast. I've already told Nangong you don't need to... But Mo Run was already too far away to hear. After searching everywhere, he finally caught sight of Nangong Se standing at one end of Naihe Bridge. He was striding forward when he noticed someone had appeared on the other end. Peering over, Mo Run saw that the newcomer was none other than Yoong Xi. Mo Run's pulse quickened. He stilled, hanging back in the bamboo grove to watch instead of calling out to Nangong Se. Yoong Xi was as gallant as ever, her features betraying not a hint of feminine softness. Her cultivation and training had shaped her into a form nearly indistinguishable from a man. If not for her feelings for Nangong Se that she hid within her heart, she might have long forgotten she was actually a woman. Upon seeing her, Nangong Se cleared his throat, looking down at the distant river. Gongzhi summoned me? Ah, Nangong Se looked rather embarrassed. He folded his hands over one of the bridge's stone lions, then hummed in assent. Is something the matter? No, not really, said Nangong Se. He didn't so much as glance at Yoong Xi as he traced the curls of the lion's mane. I just wanted to give you something. What? Yoong Xi asked, bewildered. Head bowed, Nangong Se turned away from Yoong Xi and untied a pendant from around his waist, fumbling with the knot for several seconds before he finally managed to loosen it. He coughed softly and handed the pendant to Yoong Xi. Thank you for always... Never mind, I don't know how to say it. These days I have nothing worth much, so I can only give you this. I've had it for a long time. It's not the most valuable jade, but... He didn't continue. His cheeks had turned pink. Throughout all this, he had kept his eyes downcast, too nervous to look at Yoong Xi. Realizing Yoong Xi still hadn't said anything, he was overcome by dejection and embarrassment at his impulsivity. He reached out tentatively, as though to take back the phoenix-shaped ornament. I know it isn't pretty, he muttered. If you don't like it, just give it back. It's fine, I don't mind. After we rebuild Rufung's act, I'll get you the most beautiful pendant. Yoong Xi, who had been staring at him in silence all this while, suddenly broke into a smile. Girlish sweetness bloomed upon her handsome features, a newfound blush coloring the edges of her eyes. Her fingers, her calloused, scarred, unladylike fingers, closed around the jade pendant. As the wind picked up, rustling through the bamboo, she said, This is enough. Thank you, Gongzhi. Nangong Se's face was beet red. As long as you like it, he said stiffly. I don't know what to say. From the depths of the grove, Mo Run stared at him, incredulous. He had an almighty urge to bash Nangong Se's head into the stone lion. Was this guy good for anything besides raising wolf pups? After all that hemming and hawing, I don't know what to say, was seriously the best he could do? Well, it's certainly no would you like to come on my cock, but... You know, a dude makes do with what he has in the moment. Madame Wong said my unmanageable spiritual core can be suppressed, Nangong Se blurted. I might not have to dual cultivate to treat it. Yoong Xi froze for a moment, then murmured a quiet, She lowered her lashes and didn't say more. It seemed she had misunderstood. If Nangong Se's condition could be treated without dual cultivation, then he could be with anyone he wanted. She would no longer have an excuse to so selfishly remain by his side. Yoong Xi had her pride, too. She wouldn't beg for Nangong Se's love or pity, so Nangong Se was giving her this jade pendant as something to remember him by. Do you get what I mean? Nangong Se was clearly delighted. Then, if you want, he stammered clumsily, you can address me the way you used to when we were little. I think that would be great. Sorry, I really don't know what to say. He heaved a sigh of despair. At last, as though he couldn't stand it any longer, he clapped a hand over his eyes. Heavens above, what am I saying? Now it was Yoong Xi's turn to be taken back. She jerked her head up in surprise. Eyes wide, a faint flush crept over her face. Bamboo leaves swirled over Naiha Bridge. Her robes rippled in the wind as she held the jade pendant warm in her hand, its scarlet tassel fluttering between her fingers. Finally, tentative, wary, and whisper soft, she ventured, "Asa?" Perhaps it was his imagination. In that moment, her voice, irrevocably distorted by the voice-changing spell, seemed to carry a note of its old tenderness as it floated over the breeze. Nangong looked up and caught Yoong Xi's face in the resplendent glow of dawn. A smile unfolded upon her handsome, elegant features, but within her half-closed eyes was a wet glimmer. In the end, she couldn't stop the tear that rolled down past her brilliant smile. As Nangong gazed at her face, so familiar, a hazy childhood memory rose before his eyes. He saw a young girl with rosy cheeks and long lashes, her face gentle and sweet. Back then, Nangong Lu hadn't yet sent Yoong Xi to train and cultivate in the Shadow City. Shu Shuanglin had recently brought her home, and she followed Nangong everywhere to learn some basic spiritual techniques. On this day in particular, Nangong Lu had sent the pair into one of Rufeng Sek's simplest illusions as a training exercise. Although the illusion wasn't a difficult one to break, it was frightening. Vengeful ghosts roamed within, hair draped over their faces as they wailed and groaned. At first, Nangong didn't pay Yoong Xi much mind. He was focused on dispatching the ghosts. But as he walked deeper into the illusion, he realized Yoong Xi had fallen behind. Her tiny figure was curled up in the abandoned temple, too scared to move an inch. He shot her a backward glance and snorted, but as he was about to stride off, he saw a hanged ghost drift over, its long scarlet tongue reaching toward her neck. By the time Yoong Xi noticed, she was too terrified to do anything but scream. Clutching her sword to her chest, she turned her face away. But somehow, nothing happened. When she summoned the courage to open her eyes, she saw Nangong standing in front of her. He had run the hanged ghost through and stuck it with a lightning talisman. Sparks danced around him as he looked down at her. He'd meant to scold her, but her expression was too pitiable. She looked like an affrighted kitten, tears spilling from eyes wide and round as saucers. Nangong froze. Finally, he managed to stammer, "Why are you so useless? How can you be scared of ghosts?" "They're ghosts," Yoong Xi sobbed. "If you're not scared of ghosts, what are you scared of?" "Why are girls so useless?" "But I don't want to be useless," the pretty girl wailed, so overcome with indignation her nose began to run. "Who would want to be a burden? I want to help, but you were walking too fast. You didn't even wait for me. I am scared of ghosts." Huh. In the end, Nangong squatted beside her. He didn't know how to cheer her up, so he watched blankly as she cried. Before she started training in the Shadow City, Yoong Xi's tears had rolled down her cheeks just like any other girl's. Between sobs, she choked out, "What are you looking at?" "I'm waiting to see when you'll be done crying." Yoong Xi stared at him. "Once you're done, we can go together." "Why are you so weak, anyway?" Nangong sighed. He lifted a hand and flicked Yoong Xi's pale forehead. "Stay with me. I'll protect you." As Nangong stood lost in reminiscence beneath the golden sun and blushing clouds, he realized that, before today, the only time he'd seen Yoong Xi cry was within that illusion so many years ago. That was the first and last time she wept in terror, as any girl might. In the years that followed, she had been forged into steel, frozen into ice. She sealed her hopes and fears beneath a stoic facade so complete, even she had forgotten the girl she used to be. She only knew she was to follow this scion of Rufeng sect from childhood into youth, until he had become a gongja, and she had forsaken her beauty. And just like that, without shedding a tear, without burdening him, she had quietly followed him for 2 decades. Well, I'm furious, especially at the fact that I'm staring at art. Okay? Jesus. Also, we know, we've clocked it. She's frozen solid. Gee, it would be a shame if something was to come along and, I don't know, melt her into a liquid. I don't know, maybe the love of a good man. I don't know. Get back to me. Rude. This art is rude. I can't even, there's tears in her eyes. I don't know if I could get it close enough for you to see, but they were there. That was the end of the chapter. Did I say that? Who knows? We're on page 217 for chapter 198, which is called Shizin Sets Out for Mount Huang. Oh. I'm not entirely sure we'll actually get to 199 today because it's already 440 and we just have to get through a minimum of 40 pages. It's a range, we're not required to get through 50, at least not anymore. So we may just have to stop at the end of 198. But we'll see. When their 10-day fast had ended, Nangong and Yoong Xi set out for Mount Jiao. Now Baijin had been heavily wounded and couldn't carry his master on this long journey. The massive Fey wolf had transformed himself into a tiny puppy, no larger than a man's palm, and curled up in Nangong's quiver, fuzzy head hanging out. We couldn't also get art of this? You could at least, sketch something in the margin, You give me a puppy that fits in your palm with its head sticking out of the... We don't get just, a little loose outline, some line work, Something? Please. Please. Mo-Run saw them off at the Sec's main gate. Stroking the mane of the horse he led, he grinned. Mount Jiao is a long journey, and riding swords is too taxing. Take these horses. They were raised on spiritual grass and can cover hundreds of miles in a day. They're no match for Now Baijin, but they'll see you safely to the mountain. The pair swung up astride their horses. From his seat, Nangongsa cupped his hands and respectfully lowered his gaze. Thank you, Mo Xiang. No need to accompany us any further. I hope our paths will soon cross again. Take care. Be safe. Mo-Run stood at the gate and watched as Nangongsa and Yoong Xi's figures receded into the distance. As he turned to leave, he heard a creak from the forest to his left, as if a branch had snapped and fallen to the ground. Meow! Mo-Run narrowed his eyes. A cat, he muttered. Yoong Xi and Nangongsa rode down the mountain side by side, guiding the horses onto the winding, narrow road toward Wuchang town. Sunlight streamed through the dense canopy overhead, turning the dust kicked up by their hooves into flecks of dancing brilliance. Nangongsa turned to Yoong Xi. As he parted his lips to speak, Now Baijin's fuzzy head popped out of the quiver, followed by two snow-white, golden-clawed paws. The little wolf pup threw its head back in two plaintive howls. Pulling hard on the reins, Nangongsa jumped. Watch out! Darts whistled at them from all directions as the horses whinnied in fright. Nangongsa and Yoong Xi drew their swords in the same instant, falling into the old habits of their youth. They leapt up without a word, Nangongsa's blade flying left, Yoong Xi's sword dancing right. A series of clangs, and the poison-tipped pear blossom needles fell to the ground. Yoong Xi tossed out a talisman and brought down a barrier around them. Who's there? Nangongsa bellowed. A shadow flickered over them. Though there was nary a cloud in sight, they raised their eyes to see a man at the tip of a tree branch, his wide sleeves flapping and long beard flying. Backlit by the bright sky, he peered down at them, his eyes filled with hateful scorn. Nangongsa placed him as Huang Xiaoyue? The cousin of the former sect leader of Jiangdong Hall. He stared daggers of ice at Yoong Xi, lofty and silent up above. Around them came the ominous rustling of leaves as 100 Jiangdong Hall disciples stepped out of the forest. Each wore a scarlet circlet at their brow, signifying their status as foremost disciples of the sect. Huang Xiaoyue twirled his beard around a finger. It seems you two enjoyed your stay at Xisheng Peak. You've been holed up in there for 10 long days. It's really very inconsiderate of you. Huang Xiaoyue. Why must it be you again? Nangong fumed. So what if it is? Huang Xiaoyue. Xiaoyue. Sorry, I'm over here trying to figure out Huang's name. And Love Bunnies is just like bitch, as I like to call him. Oh, we have opinions on Huang. Don't tell me you're unaware of the grievances between Jiangdong Hall and Rufeng sect. We fended off 4 of your sect's attacks between Linyi and Sichuan, yet you still insist on hounding us? Nangong ground out. What grievance do you speak of? Haven't you had your fill? Your sister-in-law murdered your brother, and the one who revealed it was Xu Shuanglin, yet you insist on picking a fight with us. Haven't you any shame? Shame? I think the shameless one is you, little Gongja. Huang Xiaoyue growled. It's your Rufeng sect that brought my Jiangdong Hall to ruin. Do you deny it? Well, I mean, that's a little scapegoaty of you. I mean, y'all's place did in fact do things, so... Oh, wait, there was a D... It's your Rufeng sect that brought my Jiangdong Hall to ruin. Do you deny it? If you insist on avenging yourself on Rufeng sect, then let justice be determined out in the open, said Yoong Xi. Instead, you waylay us on the road and attempt an assassination. Shut up. Girls shouldn't chime in when men are talking. Oh, so... bitch was accurate. Yeah. Not like he got off on, like, the best foot or anything, but definitely accurate. Huang Xiaoyue flicked his sleeves. Don't get ideas just because your shitty old man raised you like a boy. You'll never be anything but a stupid wench. A woman's place is in the kitchen. Who do you think you are talking back to me? Oh, okay. Can you, Wang Shi, draw a weapon real quick? I just want to have a talk. I just want to have a chat. I just want to open a dialogue with this guy. Huang Xiaoyue, you watch your mouth, Nangong snarled. Watch my mouth. Let's lay out all the facts, shall we? Huang Xiaoyue pointed at Nangong and continued, menacing. Your father seduced a married woman and convinced that bitch to poison my brother and seize his position. As for her, he jabbed a vicious finger at Yoong Xi. Her bastard Yifu aired Jiangdong Hall's dirty laundry to the world and smeared our reputation. I've led our sect's best fighters here today to get justice for Jiangdong Hall and the rest of the world. He leapt down with a flourish as the crowd of leering disciples rushed toward Nangong and Yoong Xi. Before they reached their targets, a great swath of flames roared up to block their path. Gale winds tore through the trees, throwing the disciples several yards backward. Very BBC Merlin, you love to see it. Mo Xiang, Nangong exclaimed. It was indeed none other than Mo Run. Willow whip in hand, he alighted on a tree facing Huang Xiaoyue and fixed him with a cold stare. Huang Xiaoyue hadn't expected this encounter. His expression grew ugly as he cast about for a retort. Mo Zongshe, what brings you down the mountain today? Seeing the sights? Zongshe, why don't you ask your disciple why he's hiding in a tree pretending to be a cat? Ah! So it literally was just someone going, meow. Huang Xiaoyue, his brow twisted. His complexion as sallow as the yellow of his namesake. What does Zongshe mean by this? He said between gritted teeth. Huang Chenbei, I should be the one to ask you, Mo Run replied. You've attacked Xisheng Peak's guests in our own territory. Did you find my sect so pristine you were inspired to sprinkle blood onto our dirt? Oh! Ooh! Damn, that cuts a couple different ways. Woo! We're no longer on the mountain. Your sect has no right to meddle. I'm avenging my dead brother, Mo Zongshi. No one asked your opinion. Huang Changbei is quite correct, said Mo Run. We've come down from the mountain. Xisheng Peak has no business meddling in the grievances of private citizens. Huang Xiaoye snorted. Well, step aside. Mo Run didn't budge, but Jiang glowed brighter, its scarlet leaves glittering like beads of blood. But what if I myself want to meddle? You? He had no illusions about Mo Run's abilities, but he couldn't back down with blood vengeance on the line. He rumbled threateningly. Mo Zongshi, do you intend to make an enemy of Jiangdong Hall? Oh, not at all. I simply want to ensure my guests make it out of Sichuan in one piece, Mo Run replied. Jiangdong Hall or Jiangdong Wall, it doesn't matter who's standing in my way. Huang Xiaoyue, Xiaoyue. It's Guyue all over again. Narrowed his eyes. The hatred in them was tangible, as if they might burst into flames and burn Mo Run and the cypress he stood on to ash. You insist on protecting these two Rufeng sect vermin? Vermin? Mo Run asked coldly. Chenbei, please enlighten me. What do Monsieur and Nangong have to do with Jiangdong Hall's misadventures? Huang Xiaoyue didn't respond. Did they instigate Jiangdong Hall's power struggles? Expose Jiangdong Hall's scandals? Mo Run stared at Huang Xiaoyue. Did they kill the previous sect leader? Did they sabotage your brother? Who cares? Huang Xiaoyue shouted furiously. The son shoulders the father's debts. That's the way of the world. Is that so? Mo Run asked carelessly. No need for more words between us, Huang Chanbei. Let's let our weapons do the talking. Moe you, Huang Xiaoye sputtered in rage. You're being completely unreasonable. Yeah, but in a really reasonable way, it's kind of his thing. How interesting. Who's the unreasonable one here? A new voice, sharp and haughty, rang out from the mountain path. Brandishing Long Chung before him, Shui Meng strolled out of the forest, his frigid silver blade blinding in the sun. Screaming bloody murder right on my doorstep as if you could just kill as you please. Does Jiangdong Hall think everyone in Xisheng Peak is dead? Aren't you asking for trouble? Huang Xiaoyue knew he couldn't defeat Mo Run in a head-to-head battle, but he might have conceivably found an opportunity to kill Nangong and Yoong Xi while Mo Run was occupied fighting the others. Yet now Shui Meng had stepped in as well, the darling of the heavens who had taken the top prize at the Spiritual Mountain competition. Who didn't know the fearsome might of the blade Long Chung in his hand? These two cousins both stood outside the sect to defend Nangong and Yoong Xi. No matter what tricks Huang Xiaoyue had up his sleeve, there was no way he could catch both of them off guard. Yet at Shui Meng's arrival, Mo Run's expression grew somber. Go back, he said to Shui Meng. I'm here to help. I'm acting of my own accord. This has nothing to do with Xisheng Peak. Don't interfere. Mo Run frowned. What was this kid thinking? Even if Jiangdong Hall's power had waned, it was still one of the 9 great sects of the upper cultivation realm. It shouldn't be underestimated. In addition, the niece of Jiangdong Hall's former leader was wedded to one of Huohuang Pavilion's senior disciples. If Shui Meng came to Mo Run's aid now, Xisheng Peak would effectively make enemies with not just 1 but 2 of the upper cultivation realm's sects. This wouldn't do. Go back, said Mo Run. But Shui Meng was too naive to tease out these subtleties. He was merely galled that Mo Run didn't want his help. As they stared each other down, a cloud of dust rose in the distance. A white steed arrowed toward them, its lovely rider clad in snow-bright robes, with a pipa on her back, a cultivator from Kunlun Tashui Palace. An urgent message, she called out, brows knitted, urging her horse to greater speed. She rounded the corner at full gallop, only to come across an apparent standoff. Pulling her horse up, she blinked at them in confusion from her saddle. Urgent! What are you all doing? The sudden arrival of the messenger put an end to Mo Run and Huang Xiaoyue's fight before it had even begun. At Shui Jingyong's invitation, Huang Xiaoyue went up to Xisheng Peak, and Nangong and Yoong Xi followed behind. Once in Loyalty Hall, Tashui Palace's messenger bowed respectfully. Vermilion lips parted as she announced, "I bring an urgent message. We have news of Xu Shuanglin's whereabouts." The color drained from Yoong Xi's face. "Our sect dispatched 10,000 of our jade butterflies to follow Xu Shuanglin's trail," the messenger continued. "This morning, 2 finally returned. They discovered traces of a spiritual disturbance near Mount Huang. The palace leader believes Xu Shuanglin may have taken refuge there. She gave immediate orders to deliver this news to each of the major sects so you may convene and discuss." Shui Jingyang was overjoyed. "You found him?" "We cannot be sure yet," replied the messenger, "but the jade butterflies reported a persistent stench of blood lingering around Mount Huang in recent days. There's a good chance Xu Shuanglin is hiding on the mountain." Does that mean we need this motherfucker's help now? Shui Jingyang clapped once and jumped to his feet. "Outstanding! Now that we have something to go on, there's no time to lose. What is the palace leader thinking?" "The palace leader is of the same mind as you, sect leader. She feels that time is of the essence and we ought to investigate at once." "Excellent!" Shui Jingyang turned to Huang Xiaoyue. "Huang Daozhang, why don't we go together? Xu Shuanglin is the one to blame for all your troubles. If we catch him, you can avenge your brother." Huang Xiaoyue's heart thudded in his chest. He knew it would be nigh impossible for him to kill Xu Shuanglin on his own. Besides, all this talk of avenging his brother was nothing more than flimsy pretense. After all, it wasn't as if the young Nangong and Yoong Xi really had anything to do with his brother's death. Huang Xiaoyue blustered about justice for his brother, but privately he had other motives. The recent crisis had severely diminished Jiangdong Hall's strength, and Huang Xiaoyue had long heard rumors that Rufeng sect possessed a secret trove of treasure. If he could capture Nangong and Yoong Xi and force them to release the ancestral seal, those valuables would fall into his hands. All of this for some mother treasure? Good Lord. He clenched his fists within his sleeves. After a moment's consideration, he forced himself to smile, face creasing like a desiccated tangerine. Ah! Face creasing like a desiccated tangerine. Also, you can't just casually invoke tangerines, meat bun. That's not something that's okay to do. You've loaded tangerines way too much. You can't just be dropping them in a sentence and just continuing on. You can't. It's too early to say whether Xu Shuanglin is truly on Mount Huang. The bridges between Jiangdong Hall and Rufeng sect have already been burned. It's not only my personal grievance that hangs in the balance, but the reputations of all sects. This will require a careful reckoning. Fair enough, said Shui Jingyang. How about we find Xu Shuanglin for your personal grievance first, and you can settle your debts with Rufeng sect later. An interesting proposition, Shui Jingmen. But Rufeng sect is scorched earth these days. Where do you suppose I ought to go settle my debts? I'm afraid I don't know. Huang Daozhang, you'll have to answer that question yourself. Shui Jingyang chuckled. Since Rufeng sect has been reduced to a pile of rubble, why are you in such a hurry to eliminate these 2 youngsters? You? Huang Xiaoyue snarled, waving his sleeves with a scowl. That's none of your business. You were talking about the reputations of all the sects just a moment ago, but now it's none of our business? Shui Meng asked with a smile. Jiangdong Hall is one of the 9 great sects of the upper cultivation realm. Shouldn't you be a bit more consistent? Huang Xiaoyue knew he was in the wrong, but he could think of no riposte and thus resorted to glaring viciously at Shui Jingyang in silence. At last he shook out his sleeves and stalked to the gate with Jiangdong Hall's disciples trailing after him. Leaping onto his sword, he led the crowd out of Xisheng Peak toward Mount Huang. Yoong Xi was weighed down with remorse. Shui Jingmen, I am so sorry for the trouble. A hunter wouldn't kill a baby bird that fell into his net, said Shui Jingyang. As he watched Jiangdong Hall's contingent dwindle into the distance, his smile faded, and his eyes grew cold. Jiangdong Hall is beyond vicious. He gazed into the sunlight outside the hall, a faint frown creasing his brow. Finally, he sighed. Come, let's go to Mount Huang. That's a scene break. The party from Xishang Peak set out on the long journey to Mount Huang via sword. By the time they reached the mountain, a large group of cultivators from each of the other 9 major sects had already convened at its base. Indistinct faces darted to and fro like a school of carp, the reason for their urgency unclear. Chuaning was first to dismount from his sword. His first steps on the ground wobbled slightly, his face stark white. Fortunately, his complexion was pale to begin with, and no one noticed aught amiss. No one but Moran. He sidled up to Chuaning and lightly rubbed the back of his hand while nobody was looking. Shizun, you flew very well. Really? Moran smiled. Chuaning cleared his throat and looked away. Raising his eyes to the top of Mount Huang, he found it shrouded in a visible haze of malevolent qi. At the moment, the leaders of the other 8 sects were heading the group at the foot of the mountain. Hands raised, they funneled spiritual energy into a towering barrier before them. Shui Jingyong touched down and rushed over to help. The rest of Xishang Peak's cultivators arrived one after another. Shui Meng landed nimbly next to Mo Run and Chuaning, frowning at the scene before them. What are they doing? Why aren't we going up the mountain? It's not that we aren't, it's that we can't, Mo Run replied. Why not? Shui Meng asked, perplexed. Mount Huang is one of the cultivation realm's 4 great evil mountains, said Chuaning. It's a strange place, and one not easily breached. Shui Meng was taken aback. I've heard of the 4 great holy mountains, but not 4 great evil ones. What mountains are these? Mount Jiao, Mount Shell, Mount Hell? Shui Meng asked incredulously. Shell, referring to the Xuanwu, the ebon tortoise. Oh, a flush crept up Shui Meng's cheeks. Uh-huh. Mount Lao, and this right here, Mount Huang. Chuaning paused. They're relics of the cultivation realm's bloody past. People seldom speak of them these days. I only know of them because I came across some obscure records. But why would evil mountains exist in the first place? Shui Meng really asking the questions for us. Chuaning responded with a question of his own. Do you remember how the founder of Rufeng sect prevailed over the evil Jiao dragon? I do, said Shui Meng. The Jiao haunted the East Sea. Rufeng sect's founder defeated the monster and sealed it within the Golden Drum Tower, and formed a blood contract to use it for his own ends. After the founder's death, the Jiao transformed into a mountain. Its sinews turned to earth, its blood to rivers, its bone to boulders, and its scales to the woods on its slopes. The peak protects the graves of generations of Rufeng disciples, so they call Mount Jiao the hero's tomb. Chuaning nodded. Precisely. Mount Jiao was formed from the evil spirit of the Azure Dragon. You're familiar with the constellations of the 4 auspicious beasts, the Azure Dragon, the Vermilion Bird, the White Tiger, and the Ebon Tortoise. These beasts are legendary guardians of the 4 cardinal directions, but some of their descendants are evil beings that wreak havoc upon the earth. Comprehension dawned on Shui Meng. So the other evil mountains are also formed from the spirits of evil beasts, like Mount Jiao? Then Mount Huang was the descendant of the Vermilion Bird? Shui Meng whipped around to look up at the mountain crouching within that malignant haze like a colossal beast. Its central peak was precipitous, but the slopes at its shoulders were gentle, not unlike a phoenix crowing with its neck outstretched. Indeed, answered Chuaning. The 4 evil mountains each have their own dangers. For example, no one can scale Mount Jiao unless escorted by a descendant of Rufeng sect's founding bloodline. Dragon sinew vines will drag any trespassers into the mud and bury them alive. Mount Huang is similar. Weird. Shui Meng turned to look at the sect leaders lined up in front of the barrier, his father among them. Everyone knows Mount Jiao belongs to Rufeng sect. Then what about Mount Huang? Don't we just need to find a descendant of whoever subdued the Vermilion Bird and drag them over? Mo Run at last broke his silence. If the descendant were still alive, sure. But she just recently passed away in an accident. Shui Meng blinked. You know her? I do, Mo Run said indifferently. We all knew her. Great! if I'm supposed to be remembering a name right now, me being shit at names, I am not recalling. Somebody drop a name. Wait. I was about to say, yeah, like Song Chutong? No way. No way. No. No. Right? My first very fleeting thought, Liv, was Mo Run's mom, but like that would be wild. Song Chutong though? That would be wild. I don't. Yeah, Henry, that's a good point. Whoever it is, there's no way it was an accident. Yeah. It's so not whatever, whoever it was, whatever the circumstances around their death was. I don't care if it was like a perfectly natural heart attack. No. No. There's no way. As I hit the mic. Henry, yeah, no such thing as a meat bun coincidence. Thank you. Jesus. Okay, so we do not have time for chapter 199, which is unfucking fortunate. But we will pick up here on Tuesday. If you are a YouTube member or a patron, we will talk about what we just read today, which was actually quite a lot now that we think about it, before the reading streams at 2:15 p.m. on Tuesday to have a chat about this fucking series. So that is what is happening next week. Thank you so much, so much for tuning in. If you want to scream at each other about Erha between now and then, once again, the evergreen link to the Gaywatch public Discord is down in the description box, right under the trigger warnings. And holy dear God, that's it. I hope you have had a lovely week, and I hope you have a lovely weekend. I will see you guys on Tuesday. Alrighty? Okay. Please take care of yourselves.